I'm Dazon. Hey! And you're listening to Visible and Unseen, chronicling HIV in Black life, then, now, and next. We're amplifying stories and highlighting voices of Black folks in the movement. Some you know, and some you should know. Now let's jump in. Hey now, we are here. Welcome to Visible and Unseen, chronicling HIV in Black life. Reverend Dr. Pernessa Seele. Hey girl, it is so good to see you and to have you here. Welcome.
Girl, hey, it's good to be with you also. Let's get it going.
Always. And I love the energy. I got, from our different conversations we've had, I've had a chance to really pull some thoughts together, and I want to share some of my thoughts and ask you some questions. So let's just jump right in, right?
Come on, let's go.
First, I want to know, how did your presence in the public health field and living in Harlem inspire your involvement in the HIV movement? What got you going?
Well, in the 80s, if you were anywhere in New York, it was all about HIV. And to be in Harlem, I was an immunologist at the time and trying to get myself out of immunology. And you could not be in Harlem without being embraced in HIV, because everybody in the hospital had HIV and they were not living. They were transitioning from HIV. And so it was really, it was impossible for me not to be involved with HIV. And the critical lens of it is that because of my faith and where I come from, I noticed why people were in the hospital and nobody was coming to visit them. And it wasn't that one person who wasn't getting no visitors. It was the whole community. People in the hospital, there was no church person, there was no missionary, no deacon, no pastor, no mama, no daddy. And I just didn't understand what in the world. Black people don't treat Black people this way. Now, of course, I look back now and realize how naive I was. But, I couldn't see myself not being involved in the HIV movement in Harlem in the 80s, because that was what was happening.
Yeah. And so you took action. What did you do?
Well, I had a little idea, Dazon. I was three days into this job. I hated working in Harlem Hospital because I had to now deal with people who were dying, and was like, well, wait a minute, now where's the pastor? And I believe the Lord gave me a little idea, a Harlem week of prayer for the healing of AIDS, to mobilize the faith community of Harlem. And I had no money. I didn't know no faith community. I had nobody. And I look back now and say, that was really, really, Pernessa. But I was raised by folks down in the Low Country in South Carolina who taught me how to listen to the Lord. And when the Lord touch your heart, you need to move out of his way and get going.
That's short to box of God.
That's exactly right. And that's what I did. I can tell the real story today. That's what I did. And 35 years later, there's a Balm in Gilead. How about that?
That's what I'm loving. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Balm in Gilead in a moment. But, that was a while ago. For you and me, I know that was well over 30 years ago. Lots has changed. Maybe some has not. So how has the culture of faith and the Black community shifted, if at all, since the first Harlem Week of Prayer that you just described?
Well, I think that a shift definitely happened with the Harlem Week of Prayer. I remember the great Y.T. Walker stood on the steps that day on Harlem Hospital and said, I've already buried over 70 men from my church. That was major for a Y.T. Walker to stand and say 70 gay men have died from my choir. I remember Bishop Norman Quick, Church of God in Christ, stood up and said, I've already sent a whole bunch of homosexuals to hell, but I couldn't send my nephew. I couldn't send my sister. Those were revolutionary moments to have those leaders stand up and confess truth to what they had done in their ministry and say, we're wrong. You know what I mean? This is absolutely wrong, and we have to do better. So from that, the next generation of preachers, we can look now and look at, they have gone, both of them who I mentioned, many of them. I look at pictures of Dazon, and I'm the only one still living. I'm like, Lord Jesus. Yeah. They have transitioned, but, they set the tone for the next leader of those congregations. So we have the congregations that are now more inclusive, but we still have churches who are sending people to hell, and they are the churches who sent people to hell for HIV. They're still sending them to hell for cancer and, liver disease. They just love sending people to hell, and it's really power and control, and so I think that, we can say today that institution that I love so well, and I have so much power, it is the yin and the yang. It does just as much harm as it does good. And we have to begin to talk balance. We have to shed the light on the good. And I believe we have to shed the light on the not so good, because it has done harm to people's lives.
Yeah. And the virus, as far as I'm concerned, the virus doesn't care what the pastor or what anybody who's casting this fire and brimstone kind of ideology and theology around what it means to love, right? What it means to be in love. And I don't mean in the romance way, but in the body of love, which is also what God is, right?
And so and the virus don't care whether the body doesn't care whether you Christian, Muslim, Buddhist. It don't care. It don't care.
It doesn't.
It don't care.
It's going to do what it does.
Yes.
Right. It's the mind that needs that love and respect and all of that. So in terms of some of that shifting that's happened, I'm also wanting to lift up some of those communities, some of those churches, some of those faith communities that have gone the other way and just been totally open and not only embracing, but actively involving and actively recruiting and bringing in new members from some of our LGBTQ or people living with HIV communities. Some of them are even led by leaders from the queer community, right? Is that a part of the shift that you hope to see when you first started with the Harlem Week of Prayer?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that shift is happening. I think it has happened. And we must give all homage to our sister, Bishop Yvette Flunder. Because, the bishop, before she became a bishop, we put many miles, on our backs, traveling across this country, fighting the good fight. But I think that, Yvette Flunder, she took it on. She took radical inclusion on in a way that, you and I did not. She stood in the hall. She took the whipping. She got cursed out, put out, and everything else kind of out. But she opened the minds and hearts of leaders that I definitely did not. And I think that, we all, the beautiful part about it is that we all do and did what we do. And sometimes everybody can't reach everybody. You know what I mean? And I must give homage to the work that the Bishop Yvette Flunder has done in really raising a consciousness of radical inclusion among, not only churches who were ready for it, but churches who were not ready for it. Churches who swore to God they would never do it. You know what I mean? She gets all my praise and all my honor. And today there are many churches across this country, including, bishops in historical Black churches who will stand up in the CME church and the AME church and the AME Zion church. You know what I mean? And, and some of that leadership is still sending people to hell, but you have also some new leaders who are standing up and saying, no, 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 no. God's love is for everybody. And I think we have to embrace those leaders, embrace those radical inclusion congregations, as well as continuing to do the work of folks who are sending people to hell. Because, we just got to keep working at it.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you raised that too, because I'm one of those that, despite the fact raised Episcopal, and still parents who are still members of that very tiny church that's aging out down there in Fort Valley. But at the same time, I'm a confessed happy heathen who prays, right? So I sit in this weird marginalized, I'm self-marginalizing, the space that I'm in terms of how I approach my faith. And what I've learned in the work that we've been doing is sometimes to get that message from that pulpit or from that dais, from that leader, you got to come through the community, through the church, through the congregation, through the organizational members, and get that, sort of organizing from the bottom up, if you will, inside that faith institution. But on the real, how important is it for us as Black people to champion our own wellness personally and as a community, especially within our faith homes?
I think it's absolutely critical that we champion our own wellness, because Black people know Black people. We just know it, and I think that we sometimes we have to champion from the bottom up. Sometimes we have to go directly to the leader. Sometimes we have to champion through the mother's board. Sometimes we have to champion through the first lady. And we, those of us who are called to do this work, the gift is that we have the knowledge, the mystical God-given knowledge to know which way to go when we get in the flow, because we are not a monolithic people. Every church is not the same. So we have to know, oh yeah, I know that church. You better go see Sister So-and-so, because you ain't gonna get to Pastor So-and-so. You better go to Sister So-and-so to get to that pastor. And then, today, unlike in the 80s, we have so many female leaders now. That's a whole nother shift. Not only do we have, our same gender loving leaders, but we have female leaders now. And that's a whole nother dynamic because sister leadership is quite different from brother leadership,
No doubt.
And girl, we can talk. Lord Jesus, have mercy.
Yes, please do. Yeah, it's no doubt. And what is it that makes that sister leader different?
Well, one thing I find that sister leadership is far more compassionate, far more willing to take a risk. Most time, not always, most times, she is not afraid of a congregation that's going to leave her. She is community driven. She wakes up in the morning thinking about how I'm going to feed more people today. What about, I'm going to make sure that, the sisters are feeling okay when they have to breastfeed their babies. You know what I mean? I don't want them to stay home from church because they're breastfeeding their babies. Stuff like that. Well, you know what? The teens, I'm going to make sure we have some tampons, not just condoms, but I'll make sure we have some tampons in the back, So sisters, because we take care of home and family, and we got to raise the boys and the girls, and we're always thinking ahead. Our ministry, it reflects that. Our ministry reflects, what do I need on Sunday? I need more than Bible on Sunday, because Sister Mary, who may get a diabetic stroke, make sure we have some orange juice. Hey, Sam, make sure you pick up some orange juice for Sunday morning, because I don't want nobody to have a diabetic stroke.
So it's that extension of that mothering, that nurturing,
That's
that
right.
so there's, because you can talk about the difference, the way a father shows up in a family. If we're not talking about the binary of it, we're talking about this acculturation of
Right.
parenting, right?
Right.
So there's a certain way that the father shows up, a certain way that the mother shows up, and when they are the leaders of faith families, if you will, they sort of take on those same traits, right? And that's
Exactly. Exactly.
so with all that, the pervasive health issues that we have going on, that facing Black folks throughout all the different communities, how is Balm and Gilead approaching holistic healing?
Well, we are approaching it through education, education, education.
Mm.
We have a community garden initiative now, and I'm planting okra in one of those gardens later on this afternoon. And we're constantly talking about um, prevention, prevention not just in terms of what you eat, but prevention in terms of what you think. You know what I mean? It's your attitude. When I do my podcast, and you're going to be my guest soon, I come on talking about joy.
Yeah.
When my arthritis, we're old enough now. When my arthritis hurting me in the morning, I got to
Uh,
put some joy on that situation to get up. I find that I reach back to my mama's bedside when she said, "Lord, thank you for waking me up in my right mind." You know what I
uh-huh.
mean? Well, now I understand what waking me up in my right mind means.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily thank you, Lord, for waking me up and I don't got dementia, but it's waking me up in my right mind on how I'm going to think about life today. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? What I'm going to think about, what I'm not going to let me get down, and what I can and cannot do. Once upon a time, I thought I can fix everything and everybody. Today, I can't fix nobody. I got to work on me. I have to
Yeah.
work on me and work on my community by bringing joy and light and love, and I think that our communities, Dazon, we are so hungry for that light and love energy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where we just have some people who are not showing us what's all wrong. Well, you see that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. We need some folks who are spending time talking about
Oh,
the joy in the community, the goodness in the community. Let's lift that up. And when you lift that up, my arthritis don't feel so bad. You know
hello.
what I mean?
And so there's two things around that for me. One is that, let's say if you got 10 minutes to deal with a problem, I want 2 minutes on the problem and I want 8 minutes on the solution, because my
That's
joy
right.
is in solving it, not
That's right.
dissecting it. And then the other part, though, in addition to that, being very much focused on our assets and on how we build this and how we do this. One of my best friends, Loretta Ross, is the one who says, fighting hate should be fun, right? So if I'm up here, whether it's in whatever kind of faith institution it is, if I'm not going toe to toe with the less compassionate or the non compassionate, because there's justice in love and there's justice in joy, then I'm not doing my job right, or I'm not in this
That's right.
fight right. I don't know. How about you?
Oh, I absolutely believe that. I was at a meeting earlier, and my thing is, everybody can't quit. You know what I mean? Everybody can't stand around and say, "Yeah, we need." Yeah, or somebody need to. Well, I mean, we have spent so many days, years, generations.
Yeah.
Somebody need to. Somebody is me today. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And everybody can't quit. When you do something and they come and they destroy it, you got to do it over again, because everybody cannot quit. Everybody
No.
can't quit. And
No.
if we don't do it,
Self-decide
who's
that
going to do
quit.
it? That's right. We can't.
Right.
Everybody can't quit. And I think that we have to show that for the next generation.
Yeah.
We are the ones that got to say to the next generation, everybody can't quit.
Yes.
And the front line is not always a picket line. You
Yeah.
know, the front line may be your front door. The front line may be your parking lot. The front door just might be your church on the front pew. I don't know. I'm just saying. But everybody can't quit.
Can't quit. So, okay, let's say Pernessa can't quit. Everybody can't quit. We can't quit. And all the word out there says that we're near the end of this epidemic. I'm skeptical on that because if y'all haven't fixed it for Black women, you ain't nowhere close.
That's
but
right.
let's say we do fix HIV. We've gotten it down. I mean, New York is close when it comes to perinatal. We've got states that are almost at no new infections in a certain amount of time. So we're getting there. What happens once we get to that part of HIV in Black communities where we say, okay, that's not it, and we can't quit? So what's next? What is there beyond HIV for us to keep dealing with in terms of these health issues, and how our faith communities are addressing? What's next? What's out
Well,
there?
you know, we know that there's always something else coming. That's just the reality of public health. There's always another epidemic coming. There's always another COVID coming. There's always another shingles coming. There's always another vaccine coming. And we must be advocates of infrastructure. You know, my thing is infrastructure and sustainability.
Yeah.
You know, everything that the Balm and Gilead does, we do it through an eye of infrastructure and sustainability. And in my role, I think that the greatest institution of sustainability, these churches, I mean, they got started in the 1700s. Is that sustainability or what?
Yes.
And our goal is infrastructure. You know, we have to figure out how. I believe every church serving Black people must have a health ministry, a thriving health ministry, an educated health ministry. You must do more than a health fair once a year. You must have some people who have some knowledge, who know where to go to get some knowledge, who got some phone calls, a network. So, you know, just say, yeah, I ain't got no. When you realize the health challenges of Black folks, because after HIV comes something else. And you know what we learned in doing the HIV movement, that the folks with diabetes got mad. Because and we were talking about HIV and wasn't talking about diabetes.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So we have learned that we can't just do one thing at a time. We got to do everything. We got to do everything is important. Therefore, we must create infrastructure within the church to be a sustainable infrastructure for you to be able to address the health concerns: prevention, treatment, and care. It has to be 3-4: prevention, treatment, and care.
Bingo.
Bingo.
Or as they would say, boom, right? So what's happening next? Who's coming behind you? Who are you passing the baton to next, Pernessa?
Girl.
Yeah.
Girl, I'm going to tell you the truth. Well, I tell you, I'm working on it, you know, because every day I said, Lord, don't let me be like Sister Dorothy Height.
I said that just today in the staff meeting. I am not lying. I said that today. Today, girl, I am not Dorothy Height.
Don't let me be Dorothy Height.
That's my amen.
But we now know why Dorothy Height did what she did. And I think that's the key. You know, there are days, Dazon, there are days when I get to a moment and I say, aha, now I know how they got there because this was their moment. And that was the road they choose. Do I choose that same road or do I go another way? And sometimes I go that road and sometimes I go another way. We'll see where we come out at. But, you know, we'll see.
Yeah. So you're on the
it has not yet been revealed.
That's right. To be determined. Yeah, no, I'm feeling you on that one. The thing is that and you tell me if where you sit in this. You didn't find this movement. It found you, right? And I feel the same way. And once you are found, once you got it, right? That's your path. That's your purpose. And I tell the folks all the time, you know, we're dealing with this intergenerational stuff. I might have to get out of the way, but I ain't going away.
Right.
So that's my sort of response to that in terms of what's coming behind me or how I look at what's happening next. how about you? Will you ever step out of all of this? Is this a part of who Pernessa is? This is the fight for life. I mean, literally, figuratively, all of that. Where do you sit in that process of succession, but not in this organizational way, in this meaningful, spiritual, if you will, or this mental way, the emotional way of how we involve ourselves in this work? What
Well,
about that?
I like you affirm that I have a purpose driven life. You know,
Yes.
my life is purpose driven.
Hmm.
And I accept that, and I don't make no apologies for it. You know, I have a purpose driven life, and I'm also blessed with people around me, young people around me. I have the, you know, it's interesting that even the 50-year-olds are the young people these days. We talk about truth and love, you know, and you know, to see the next generation of 50s and 40s and 30s and 20s, as I am so wanting to give them everything I got. You know, I share, and it's like, you know, I want you to see it. I want you to see how I see it. And then I listen to how they see it. You know what I mean? We always don't see it the same way. Sometimes I say, oh, okay, I get that. And sometimes they say, okay, I get that. And I love being the teacher now. You know, I love being the mentor now. And I also love being the one who's learning. You know, I love listening and to my staff who's helping me to understand the new contemporary church. Because I don't understand the you know, the 5 people that stand up in church on Sunday singing. I don't understand what they're singing. They're not singing Blessed Assurance. They're singing Going Up Yonder. I don't know what they're singing. It sounds like the same song. Baby, wow. I'm clueless. So it's a give and take now that I absolutely, you know, I love the space where I am. And who get the baton? I do not know. I don't think that choice is going to be mine. I think that God will reveal it hopefully before I leave the earth. But the joy of sharing and the joy of learning is just a beautiful place where I am.
I don't know what I would follow with that. That is phenomenal. That is, you don't find Dazon speechless often. Here I am. Thank you so much for that, Pernessa.
You're welcome.
That is, I think, the wisdom we need, but it's also certainly the encouragement, the affirmation that I need. So thank you for leading.
You are so welcome.
I appreciate, love you so much.
Oh, you know what, girl? We go way back yonder, and we going further up there too. We back yonder, and we going up yonder too.
Totally. And I'll just close this one out with, you know, as someone who grew up in an Episcopal church back then, now, and probably forever, I never understand what they're saying. It's always by an organ. It's always really in the, you know, first and second soprano, no matter who's
high church.
Hey. And so I intentionally had to take myself out and go. I had permission from my mom. As long as I was back at church, my home church on the first Sunday, she would let me go where I needed. So I had to go to the Pentecostal church. Oh, they got a band. I had to go to the church. They got like 12 people in their choir. Go to CME, they got 30 people, and I'm from a town of 10,000. They got 30 people in their choir, and we get back and we got 7 people in our choir, and they all over 75. It's like, okay, I see how this works. You know, thank you so very much, Pernessa. Amazing time. I'm grateful to you for your time, and I can't wait to join you on your podcast.
Absolutely. Coming up soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, darling. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Visible and Unseen. I'm your host, Dazon, and I'm also the founder and president of SisterLove Incorporated. To find out more about this podcast and the work we do at SisterLove, visit us online, www.sisterlove.org, or follow us on Instagram at SisterLove Inc. And tune in next time for another episode of Visible and Unseen. And much appreciate love.